Welcome to Hispanic Biz Success Stories. I'm Homero Galicia. We have the pleasure of interviewing successful Hispanic business owners to learn from them their stories. We believe every business has a story, and a story that tells us about our community and about heroic efforts in building a business. We're fortunate today to have with us Ms. Maria Antonietta Orrantia, who is the CEO of Julio's Cafe Corona. Hope many of you know that, and it's a regular place for you at 8050 Gateway East. Thank you, Ms. Orrantia, for being with us. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Galicia. It's a pleasure to be with you in this program.
Thank you. Let me preface our conversation saying that as a young man, I used to go to your father's restaurant in Juarez, Julio's Cafe Corona, every Sunday. It was a family tradition, and my father used to love to go in, and your father was always there hosting, and we would talk to your father for a long time, and it was very much a part of our upbringing, because in El Paso we used to go to Juarez for meals, for Mexican food. In fact, there weren't too many Mexican restaurants in El Paso, they were all in Juarez. But your restaurant came over to El Paso. You were one of the first to come to El Paso that had a business in Juarez and came over to El Paso. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We opened the first time in El Paso in 1981.
And where was that?
It was on Mesa in Nevada, behind the cathedral, St. Patrick Cathedral.
And so that was in the old Zach White House then? Yes,
that's correct. It was the building was owned by Amen Wardy.
Yes.
It was a beautiful building. The front part was the White House, and the business was in the back part. And it was a beautiful building.
And how long were you there?
Just for 3 years.
Yeah, that was quick.
Yeah, because they sold the building. So we need to move.
And why did you decide to come to El Paso?
Well, the lines on the bridge start to be very long, and our clientele used to be mainly from El Paso. So my father decided to open another business here in El Paso, and I believe Amen Wardy offered the building so they can start a business here, and it was a beautiful experience.
That building, he went into a remodeled building, and it was a beautiful building, and that was it had been a residence before, and they fixed it up a beautiful building. So I remember when you went in. So. But the business in Juarez was good.
Oh yes, it was good. It was good. Yeah, as you said, it was a tradition. A lot of families from Juarez and El Paso used to go to Julio's every Sunday, or the business people, they used to eat, several times during the week. We have like a lunch special that over there we call comida corrida. So a lot of people used to go over there for lunch.
I want to ask about your father, but were you involved in the restaurant all the way through?
Yes. As a little child, I used to be there with my parents the most of the week, and especially Sundays. And I loved the business. I loved it all the time.
What did you love about the business?
I like mainly the public relations, because you meet a lot of people. Every day is different. It's not something that is a routine. Every day is very different. You meet people. You meet the needs of the people. A good meal or a good talk, and that's something that you have like a reward every day.
And so your father, when did he start the restaurant?
1944.
Wow.
In old Juarez downtown.
What was his background?
I think he just studied high school, and my grandmother, I think she introduced my father to the business, and he and my mother opened a little tiny restaurant in La Chaveña in Juarez. Probably they had like 2 tables or 4 the most, and my mother just cooked like 2 chickens and whole chicken, with the chicken broth, she made soup, and with the meat, she made flautas, and when they finish whatever they can make, they close the business, and until next day.
That was a neighborhood restaurant.
Oh yes, it was a neighborhood.
What was your father's name?
Julio, as the business. Julio Ramirez.
And your mother?
Guadalupe.
And what was your father like?
Oh, he was a very energetic man, very hardworking man, and very polite. He liked to talk with people, and he was a oh my God, a very good man. I love my father.
And your mother?
My mother, she loved to cook. Every time that they travel to Mexico, she bring more recipes, new things, new ways to make the same things, but from the south of Mexico. And she was a very hardworking woman too.
So they worked together in the restaurant?
In the restaurant all the time.
So how long did that restaurant in La Chavenia last?
I believe it was from 1944 until probably 20 years over there. And then they moved to a building on 16th of September in Americas Avenue. It was like a round building that had a terrace on top. Mm-hmm. And they have music, and they start building like a private rooms on one of the sides of the building. And they have a lot of business over there. A lot of business, a lot of parties, a lot of weddings.
It got to where parking was a problem.
Yes, it was a problem because they have just few space for parking. And then they were offering the building that was across the street, and they bought, it was the first building that they bought.
Okay. And that was a larger building, and it had offices, it had commercial side to it as well.
Yes, yeah, and they have a very good parking lot. Mm-hmm.
And that's the restaurant I remember. Hardly remember the one across the street. So that was about what time frame was that?
Probably on the 70s.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. It became very popular.
Oh yeah, it became very popular. And it was on that time that my father decided to put his name on the business name, Julio, and add Julio's Café Corona.
Before it was named?
Café Corona.
Okay.
And it was named Café Corona because the beer on that time, they offered the free signs if they put the Corona name. So, okay. They didn't have, the money to make the sign. And so they decided to name it Café Corona.
So Corona beer paid for the sign?
Yes. Actually, I think it had like a crown on top.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the name came from the
From
opportunity.
there. Yes.
And so when they moved to that restaurant in the 70s, what were you doing?
I was at UTEP. I was studying, I have a BA in psychology because I wanted to be a psychologist or a counselor at least. But I had always, the feeling to have my own restaurant. Yes.
Did you do your secundaria and preparatoria in Juarez and come here to high school?
To college.
You just came from Juarez to college?
Yeah, from high school over there to college over
And how
here.
did you find it here, going to school here, all in English?
Oh my God, it was a terrible time.
Really?
Oh, I cry almost every day for the first semester. Because, over there you just, you can tell by my accent, but over there you just learn like sentences or to read, but not to speak the English. So when I was in front of a teacher and he speak English for the whole hour, I was lost, especially on my math classes.
Really?
Yes.
You're probably very good at math.
Oh my God, it was a terrible time for me.
Did you finish in 4 years?
Yes. I think it was 3.5.
Really?
Yes.
And you liked psychology?
I love psychology.
Because you like people?
Yes, that's correct.
But you still had that restaurant bug?
Oh yeah, I always had it. I always had it when I got married in 1978. I always told my husband that I would like to have sometime my own business. And
What year did you graduate from UTEP?
1978.
And so you got married then.
I graduated on May and I got married on June.
Did you meet your husband at UTEP? Or?
No, he was from Juarez.
Okay.
Yes.
And how many children did you have?
I have a daughter and a son.
And your son, what is he doing now?
He's an architect, but when my husband passed away, he decided to move to El Paso again. He was studying in Monterrey, and he decided to move to El Paso to help me, with the business. And he stayed. He decides to stay with me.
And he runs your other restaurant?
Yes, he opened the other one, and he runs the one on Joe Battle.
On Joe Battle.
Joe Battle and almost Montana.
Is that about 2 years old now?
It's going to be 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your daughter, what does your daughter do?
My daughter is an accountant, and it's in charge of the finances of the business.
And what is her name?
Ana.
And your son's name?
Francisco.
Francisco.
So
they're in
the
husband. Business.
Yeah.
And do they like it like you did when you were young?
I think they enjoy it.
What is it about the restaurant business that really is, keeps you there?
As I told you, I think that this kind of business is like being in a theater, like an actor in a theater, because you receive the applause right away, even if the people, and it's always like, for me, it's like I do whatever I can to please the people. If something is wrong or the meal is cold or something, I can just check it out right away and make the people to have a good experience.
But you're there. You're there all the time.
But the employees, if they sees you doing that, they are like me.
Right.
Yeah, I think they love what they do.
And that's part of the mistake of going there. I mean, you being there or the hostess or whoever, is the host is very friendly and do you have a particular clientele? Can you describe the clientele in any particular way?
Well, during the day we have a lot of business people, a lot of people from offices or hospitals that just have like 1 hour for lunch, and we have a lot of families too. A lot of families. They always say, like, I used to go to Juarez and I grew up on Julio's in Juarez, and my father or my grandfather always take us on a Sundays. And I have it's not like a particular group of people. We have business and we have families.
So when the restaurant came from Juarez to El Paso, did you run into obstacles?
Yeah, especially the laws over here. It's very different, like with the laws, with the employment laws and all the requirements that you need to have for selling liquor, for example. It's very different. The language. I don't know how much English my father used to speak, but I mean, he speaks English, but to run a business, I think it was kind of different.
So your father and your mother came over to run the business here. In the restaurant in Juarez stayed?
It stayed for probably 10 years more.
And so your father was doing both restaurants?
He went to the one in Juarez during the morning, and he came during the afternoon to the one on Mesa.
And what role were you involved at that time?
No, I got married on 1978. And I went to live to Guanajuato for 3 years. So on that time, I wasn't here. I wasn't living here. I moved until 1981 again to El Paso.
And so you were already on the Gateway?
Yes, I opened that business over there.
Okay, so you were part of the planning of that?
Yes.
One of the, I guess, distinguishing elements of the business is your menu. How did that develop, your menu?
My mother used to go to Mexico City every year. They travel by car, and they bring decorations and they bring new recipes. And I do the same. Every time that I can travel to Mexico or any part of Mexico, if I like a plate, I will ask the chef. Sometimes they tell you the recipe, sometimes they don't. But you can, guess what ingredients they have. And I like to bring it to the restaurant, and like the cochinita pibil, we went to Mérida, to Yucatan, and we loved the plate, so we brought the recipe to the business.
It's a very hard dish, isn't it? It's pork?
It's pork, yeah.
You're also famous for your mole.
For the mole, yeah. My mother, is my mother's recipe.
So your recipes go way back?
Yes.
And you don't change your menu very much?
No. We stay, probably we can take one or two plates that they don't sell well, but you never know. Sometimes we take something and then the people start asking for that and we put it back.
Put it back.
Yeah.
So how often do you change the menu?
Probably every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after a while you get to know the menu and you just don't even have to look at it. But the success that you've had, what do you attribute it to?
I attribute it to my customers, that they love our food. We try to be very consistent with the flavors that the people expect. I have a lot of people, they move to Houston or to Phoenix, and every time that they come for Thanksgiving or Christmas, they always tell me, I was, dreaming on your tan pequeña, and it was as I dreamed, And so maybe the consistency of the flavors.
How important is that?
It's very important because, if you like something from this certain place, you start flavors, the texture of the meat or whatever you're dreaming of, and then you go and you get what you were expecting. So.
And so, do you change cooks regularly, frequently?
Lately it's been a little hard to keep the cooks because there's a lot of restaurants opening and closing. But the most of the people that work with us has been with us for many, many years. And we train them like 3 months before we can say, okay, go ahead by yourself and do whatever you were taught to do.
So you train them?
Mm-hmm. The training. It's very important, the training.
So when you opened the restaurant on the Gateway in 81, what challenges did you, because that was your restaurant.
Yes. To train the employees, to train the waiters and the cooks. We had a lot of problems with the building because we have like a water reservoir on the back part of the building. So we had to build that reservoir over there, the dish, I think they call it the dish. And we have problems with the building, and then I started having problems with the training of the employees. To be the same, the food to be the same as the people used to have it in Juarez. And I had this couple from, I think he was a general from the Fort Bliss, and she told me, no, I want my enchiladas as they used to make it in Juarez. And I say, red or green? No, it was not red or green. I say, oh my God, it has to be either one, And she had some special recipe of enchiladas in Juarez that we didn't have. So we made that recipe for her. And she was very, very happy after that.
Did it stay on your menu?
Oh, yes.
Which are those?
The enchiladas rancheras.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's interesting. How the dishes. Let me ask you about your family. Were you have brothers and sisters?
I have 3 older brothers.
And what did they end up doing?
My oldest brother, he was on the heating and cooling business.
Here in El Paso? Or
Here in El Paso. And he started in Juarez. And my brother Ricardo, he used to run the business in Juarez after my father came to El Paso. He stayed on the business over there. And my younger brother, he is in the real estate business.
So the family still was involved in the restaurant.
Yes,
Through
you know,
you and
we
your
all
brother.
we grew up in the business as my child grew up on the business.
Well, what value does having a degree in psychology help in your business?
Well, you start, learning a lot about the people, because the people come, and if they are regular customers, they start talking with you and telling you like something that is going on their family. Probably somebody is sick, or they just move from the children just move, or they have like an empty nest, and they start talking with you, and then we get related. It's like a big family. It's like having a big family.
You know, one of the things that's interesting, and I don't think about it, but as we're talking, there's a uniqueness too about your establishment is the music. How did you put that together? It's soft Mexican music. It's classical Mexican.
It's been quite difficult to please all the people with the music, because sometimes they told, can you turn it off, please? I don't like that kind of music. Because we don't just have like mariachi music. We have all kind of Mexican music. We used to have a lot of marimba, because when we open, we have a marimba playing every weekend. So we just start doing like a playlist from the people that, oh no, I don't like that, so we get rid of that song, and because sometimes it's very loud.
So you listen to the customers.
Yeah, we always listen to the customers. Sometimes it's not very good idea, because for example, the atmosphere of the restaurant. Some people like very loud, that you can talk without gossip, so the next table they don't listen what you're talking, and another people just want to be very quiet, and they go to the bar, or it's very difficult to please all the people, but we try our best.
One of the things interesting, and I don't remember seeing a TV in your restaurant. You do in the bar side, but in the restaurant you don't have a TV, do you?
Oh yeah.
You do.
Right now we have like 2 TVs on each of the dining rooms.
And people like TV? Why the TV in the restaurant?
It's because all the sports bar that they are going right now, they are very popular. When my son came, he was the one that put the TVs over there. So, for the games, and sometimes during the quiet hours, we put like videos from some Mexican artist, and the people like to watch the TV.
It's interesting because
Yeah.
Restaurants have TVs now, and I don't understand.
And you don't talk because
Yeah.
you're watching the TV. That's
Yeah.
not a good idea.
Yeah, I have to sit myself away from the TV. What I'm interested in learning from you is the restaurant business is a very, very specialized. Not everybody can be successful in that. And you're the owner, and you're present, and your presence is there always. And there's some business principles that you exercise that are very good business principles, regardless. And I'm wondering what those might be. Have you recognized some of the things that you do that are just really good principles?
You need to be very good with your employees. You need to value your employees, because they are, the brain of the business, the cooks and the waiters. I think we get along very good with our employees. We have employees that has been with us for 25 years, 28 years. So maybe it's a very good point to value your employees. Listen to them. And with the food, you need to be consistent on the flavors, the quality of the ingredients that we use, and listen to your customers, because they're going to pay for what they want to have. So we need to meet their expectations.
You've also been conservative in your pricing. You raise your prices slowly.
Very slowly, very slowly. We're very cautious with that. As I told you, we change the menu every 2 years. When another business, they change it like twice a year. Always the people that sell us all the merchandise, they told me, you need to increase your prices twice a year. And I say, no. No. So we do it very...
So there's something that you enjoy about your restaurant that is part of your life. And what is that?
Actually, I live over there. Not anymore, as I used to spend more hours, you know, when we just started. Right now, my children they're like the huge help that I can have. You know, they start looking at numbers. And I start, and it's not the way that I learn. I learn from my parents that they always there. And I start, you know, if I'm not there, nothing happens. You know, the employees take your place and they do what they know how to do it.
Did it take you a long time to come to that?
Yes. I just started and when I'm not there, I feel like guilty, like I'm I'm doing something wrong.
It's hard to let go.
Yes.
But so you've been there 30 years, 33 years.
30 years.
30 years at this establishment.
This year we're gonna be 30 years in business.
And you've been there almost every day.
Almost every day.
Do you take vacations?
Yes, like 2 weeks per year.
And that's it?
That's it.
The rest of the time you're at the restaurant?
Yes.
So we need to find out how you raised your children while you're doing all of that.
I used to bring them to the one on Gateway, and they spent like the whole afternoon there. They made the homework with me, and it's the way that I grew up, spending a lot of time with my parents.
That's fascinating to understand restaurants and the dedication you have to that, and the personal commitment that you have to that's different than other businesses. I mean, you have to be there and you have to overlook everything, and you've certainly brought over that tradition that was at Julio's Café Corona in Juarez to El Paso, and you've actually built another cultural experience, a little different than what was in Juarez, but definitely now an El Paso establishment. And I expect that's not been an easy thing to do. But I appreciate your sharing your story. We have an opportunity to keep talking with you about your business. As a young person, and a lot of us in El Paso went to Julio's Café Corona in Juarez on Sundays or Friday nights or whatever. But it was part of our growing up. In '81, you started your restaurant on the Gateway, but your father came over. You were saying in
1978.
In '78, and started Julio's here in El Paso. And you were one of the first restaurants, I think, from Juarez to come over to El Paso. So, you know, we like to say El Paso is the center of the capital of Mexican food in the world. But yeah, I mean, Juarez is Mexican food. I mean, what makes El Paso people claim El Paso the center of Mexican food. Is that true, or?
Well, it used to be like a contest, like 10 years ago, that it was El Paso, Mexican food capital of the world, and they make contests between, you know, the different Mexican restaurants, we used to participate in those contests. It was fun to.
So you're authentic Mexican.
Yes.
What's the difference?
We claim to be authentic. Well, you know, when we came to El Paso, there's always like a taste to like Tex-Mex, Mexican food. So we need to stay on the Mexican flavor and not to intend to Americanize the recipes. You know, a lot of people from, especially from the north part of the United States, they like to have, for example, the cheese. They used to have the yellow cheese, like the cheddar cheese, with the enchiladas or the nachos. And in Mexico, we don't use that much the yellow cheese, like the cheddar. So it's kind of hard to stay on the authenticity of the recipes. like the fajitas. The fajitas is more like the Tex-Mex dish. And people start asking us for the fajitas. Okay, we add it to the menu, but it's not like a Mexican dish, like a popular dish in Mexico. The fajitas, it's more in the border part.
Well, and there's some Mexican dishes that would be very hard for this public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is hard. Or the mole. The American people, just a few love the mole. You know, because if you say it's like a chocolate sauce, they were like, oh, I don't like it. But and it's very good, you know, because we mix it with a lot of different chiles and a lot of different ingredients. And it has chocolate, but it doesn't taste as chocolate.
Yeah, your mole, my wife likes your mole. That's all she has at your restaurant because it's very authentic. But the flavors, and I guess you can tell sometimes different restaurants use different red chile. You know, what is authentic red chile?
Okay, well, we make our own red sauce. So we bought the chile. For example, we buy the chiles, the red chiles for the whole year. So the whole year is gonna be the same brand of red chile. So if we use the same ingredient, it's gonna taste the same the whole year. Because sometimes it's very hot, sometimes it's mild. But we buy from just one person the supply for the whole year. So it's something that helps us to be consistent.
Wow. So consistency is really critical for you.
It is. It is.
Well, let me ask you, because one of the things that's important in building a business is overcoming challenges. You were telling me earlier that when you opened your new facility on the Gateway, one of your first challenges was with the city and the water flow, and you had a pond in the back of your. I know it's a culvert now, but you had to build that. You had to build concretize the pond.
Yes, it's
and
one
that came
of
out of your expense.
Yes, and it's very expensive. It's very but you know the land had that it was not going to work for the city. So when my father bought the land, he already knew that he had to build the pond.
There wasn't a lot out there when you built that building. You were one of the first.
I think we were the first one between Yarborough and Loma Linda. I think we were the first ones.
Was it hard to build a clientele in the new building?
No, not really. Not really, because a lot of people from El Paso already knew us and heard about us, and so they just, instead of going to Juarez, they just came to the one on the east side.
A lot of people have ups and downs in building a business. You don't talk about having a lot of downs. Your business has been steadily growing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We had a lot of downs, but nothing that we cannot survive.
What were those like?
You know, there's like it was like a recession, a little recession that we have in the past years. Every time that the minimum wage it's going up, you know, you need to adjust everything on the restaurant so you will have a profit at the end. So those are the only downs that I can tell.
You were telling me that your children, your son and your daughter, your son runs the other restaurant on Joe Battle. How old is he?
He's 29.
29. How does he like running the restaurant?
I think he enjoys running. It's a challenge he likes challenges, so it's been a challenge for him.
But and your daughter does your books. She's the accountant.
Yeah.
And they look at the numbers. Did you look at the numbers when you were starting the restaurant?
Not at all. I don't know how we run it, the restaurant the first years, because we never, I mean, you know how much can you spend on this and on that, but you know the percentages that they look right now, I mean, they don't need to be there. They just check the numbers every Monday, and if the numbers are good, they feel good.
But you don't run the business that way.
No, not that way. I'm getting used to it.
But you run the restaurant by a feel too, don't you?
Yes, yes.
Do your children have that feel?
I think they start doing that part or be sensible to that part, because you need to feel, you know, you need to feel mostly because you're working with people for the people. So you need to be aware of that feeling.
How do you compete with chain restaurants?
It's hard. It's hard because they have, you know, they have the numbers again. They have their own numbers, and we cannot compete. When they buy the product, they have, I think they have better prices because they buy a lot. Right now we're buying for two, and it's been better for us. You know, that they can work with you on the prices because you're buying more.
Has adding the second restaurant put pressure on your existing restaurant?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's a different market. We are not that far away from each other, you know, because the other one is on Far East, but there's a different market over there. We sell these kind of dishes over here more, and they have their favorites over there.
So it's a whole different
It's different, totally different.
And you're, what, 5-10 miles apart?
Yes. Yeah, they sell more. They have a lot of young families around, so they sell like more desserts, more like arracheras or big plates, and we sell more like the traditional, the enchiladas or the Mexican plate, the breakfast buffets. We have more people over here on the Gateway. It's totally different.
One of the things that that's interesting about the restaurant business is at least in the kind of restaurant you have, is the value of your presence, your being there. How much has that contributed to the growth of your business?
I think at the beginning it helped a lot. The restaurant business is very demanding. You need to be there. You need to watch the numbers, and you need to create that loyalty with your customers. That's my feeling. I don't know, because you know the chains, the big chains, I don't know, you never see the manager, you never see the owner, and they run okay. But you know, for us, like as Hispanic, I like to be involved on the day-to-day business.
Let me ask you, when I was young, I remember that as Mexican restaurants in El Paso began, they catered to the El Paso taste, the El Paso public, like you say, Tex-Mex, and maybe not is true to the authentic Mexican. And for El Paso, you know, we were very happy with that. You've been able to stay true to the authentic Mexican. And now there's more restaurants coming from Juarez, a lot more now, especially after the violence in Juarez. What kinds of problems do you see people having when they come to start a business here now?
I think that a lot of people think that the restaurant business is very easy, and it's not. You know, if I like to cook, I can open my own little business and that's it. But you need to have working capital, first of all, so you can stay in business for 6 months while you build your clientele. And a lot of people, they think that they're gonna start earning the dollars, you know, in huge quantities, and they can stay in business forever. But the restaurant business is like very slow, but it's a very faithful kind of business. So you need to have a working capital first.
How have the banks been with you?
Pretty good. We work with one same bank since we opened, and they're always like a backup for us.
How much does it cost to build a restaurant?
Oh my God. It depends on how big do you want the business to be. You know, what's the capacity, or what are your plans to have. And it depends on the menu, because if the bigger the menu, the more equipment or the more space that you will need on the kitchen. So it depends of what are your expectations.
Because I see people putting a lot of money into the kitchen equipment and just a huge investment. And if they don't last, I mean, the part of it is because they put such a huge investment at the beginning. And I'm sure you've seen that. What advice would you give to somebody who's opening a business?
Okay, if somebody wants to open a business, especially a restaurant, you need to work with your numbers and how much money do you have to open the business. You need to meet some requirements, you know, from the city, like the health department. You need to have all your equipment in stainless steel, so it's very costly. And sometimes something that you're gonna put on the walls of if you're like leasing the property, it's gonna stay there. You're not taking with you if you close. So the numbers are very critical.
So how, to what extent did you plan, like your expansion, to what extent did you plan the new restaurant?
The new one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think my son, he had this feeling to open another business, and probably he wants to open another one, a third one. I don't know if he wants to stay on the restaurant business because it's hard. It's hard, and but I would like to stay in business forever. I don't know if I would like to open more locations, but I would like to stay in business. My son and my daughter is the third generation on the restaurant business. So, and it's very hard that a family business will last more than 2 generations.
Why is that?
I don't know, but it's something that we read it on the books that it's very hard, you know, for the third generation. I don't know if they start having a different interests in doing something else besides the...
But you've been successful. Your children are taking the business.
Well, sometimes if you can combine the family with the business, maybe they don't get scared, because in another people that I know, they said, well, my mother and my father, they always working. I don't want to do that the same. So they start looking for another field.
But you brought your children into part of your business.
Yes.
So they grew up in it, they understand it, they're not
My
afraid
son
of
used to be like a busser during the summer breaks or the spring breaks. So they start loving the business.
How hard has it been for you? You're a widow now. How long has that? How hard has it been to be running a business by yourself?
Very hard, very hard at the beginning, because my husband was the one in charge of all the administrative things, the permits, the license, the numbers. And when he passed away, I was like, I feel lost. Thank God that my son decided to come and help me. And then my daughter decided to come 1 year after my husband passed away, and you know, she's the bookkeeper, so I feel very confident.
Did she study accounting here?
Yes.
At UTEP?
At UTEP.
So, have you run into any issues being a woman business owner?
I think it's a little bit harder. I mean, the President Obama just mentioned that on his speech the other night, that the woman, we earn like 77 cents of a dollar as the difference with the men. So it's kind of hard being a woman working by herself. It's kind of hard. For me, it's not that much hard because I have my children with me. But I don't know if somebody by themselves working and survive with a family business, I think it's hard.
So your father established the restaurant, came over here to El Paso and established it here. You opened the new restaurant that you operate now on the Gateway. That your story looks like it's been pretty smooth all the way along. Like you haven't hit major obstacles to prevent growth. You've had your ups and downs, but not major obstacles. So your father really did a good job.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think he planned everything very, very good. He always teach my son to be very careful when he spends money. You need to choose what you want to buy and be sure that it's going to help you to grow.
Where did your father learn that?
Life. I think life. He was a very wise man.
And where did you pick up your wisdom?
I think from them, you know, because they were very low profile people. He didn't want to spend a lot of money, you know, in cars or to spend a lot of money. He was very traditional, very low profile.
So what was, if you can say, what was your father's fulfillment in building the restaurant? Did he find fulfillment in that?
I think he enjoyed it. He enjoyed it because he worked very long hours, and I think he had always a very good sense of humor. He was a very good talking with people, so I think he enjoyed every day of his life.
And you?
I do the same.
You find fulfillment in building a business?
Yes, I find fulfillment every day that I go to the restaurant and I greet the people and I talk with, you know, that many people that know me, and I know them and I know their children. I know what they do, and we can talk about. I have a lot of like car dealers that go to the restaurant. And how is business? It's kind of slow for us, and for you, I saw that you're very busy, and we can start, you know, talking about what we do.
So you keep track of all of your customers?
Oh, yes, yes.
But there's some business principles that you have to have, I believe, that are very subtle. And I'd like to ask if you can reach in somewhere and find, share some of those principles that you have that are very much a part of the way you operate. How would you describe the way you operate your business?
Well, the operation of the business, actually on the numbers, my son is very cautious about, you know, he always checks the numbers every Monday.
For both restaurants?
For both restaurants. We have a meeting on the morning on this one, on Gateway, and the afternoon on the other one. So you need to watch the prices of the food, what you're spending on your labor, what is your capital, your working capital. It's okay, so you have something to survive if something happened, like for 3 months or 6 months. We always have like a little savings for just in case. Okay, and with the people, you need to treat your employees good. You need to be fair with your employees. More like establishing like a friendship with them. And I think they're gonna respond good to you.
When you say friendship, some people say you don't want to be a friend to your employees. But in your case, the way you lay it out, you know, why is that important?
Because it's not, they are not like a number for you. We have 120 employees. Wow. And they need—
in both restaurants?
In both restaurants. Yeah, they need to know that you are there for them. So we are interested in if they are good in their families, they're gonna work well for you. You know, everything, if they have a problem or something wrong is going on their family, you know, their mind is not going to be there. They're gonna be someplace else.
So how do you keep close to 120 employees?
In a day-to-day basis.
It comes up,
yeah.
And you're there, you see that. So your future is still the restaurant?
I believe so.
And you want it to be?
Yes. It's something that I really enjoy.
So you've been in this restaurant, this building, 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and your future is another however long?
I don't know. As long as I can work.
And what challenges are you facing for the future?
Well, with a lot of different things political going on right now. I hope that we can be stable for the next years to come, and to keep working as hard as we can.
Let me ask you, because you grew up in Juarez and you came to El Paso to go to university, and then you ran this business. Is there a big life difference living in Juarez, living in El Paso, from your experience?
Yes, it's a big difference, big difference. Over there, it's kind of slow. You can enjoy more life. Over here, you need to work hard. You need to work harder over here.
Was that a shock?
Yes. And over there in Juarez, you know your neighbors, you know who lives next door or in front of you. And over here, you open your garage, go inside, and you close, and you never know your neighbors. So it over there, it helps to be like a big family.
But you say work hard, yet your father and mother were always working.
Mm-hmm.
But over here, you're working hard. What's the difference?
I think that your mindset, they were like, if I'm not there, there's a saying in Spanish. Can I say it?
Yes.
Al ojo del amo engorda el caballo.
Which means?
Which means that if you're not there, your business won't be successful, because something can happen. Somebody can just rob you, or something can happen. And it's not true. I think if you watch your numbers, every business can run smoothly.
If you're watching your numbers.
Your numbers. You need to watch something.
And what's important about the numbers?
That you are making a profit, after all.
And if you get some numbers and they're not where you want them to be, what do you do?
Okay, well, you start correcting whatever. If it's in your labor, okay, you need to watch your schedules and work with less people if possible. Or, it depends on the numbers where are not working good.
You know your business enough that if the numbers don't come where you want them to be, you know what adjustments to make?
Yes.
And
yes.
Where does that come from? Where does that intuition? Is that intuition?
No, I think that's something that you learn. You have this percentage that you can spend on cost of the goods sold, and this on labor, and then you make your. I need to have this percentage of profit. If I don't make this, something has to be adjusted. So it depends on the numbers.
So you know your fixed costs and your variable costs.
Yes.
And you know your margin of profit.
Yes.
Before
You need
taxes.
to you need to know those numbers.
Because if you don't, your banker does.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, it's fascinating to learn, about you and about your business. It's almost as if you and the business are one. Is that fair to say?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
So the business has been your life.
Yeah, I'll spend the last 20 years in the restaurant.
Has your
Planning, enjoying, serving, sometimes cooking, but
Really?
it's my life.
So has the business given you life?
Yes. The restaurant business is demanding, but it's very, very faithful. So it pays.
Is it fair to say you have to love the business?
You need to have passion for what you do.
So what is your passion?
My relations with the public, my relations with my employees, the people.
So the whole environment.
Yes, I am mostly people oriented.
Okay, that's important. in
That's
your
important.
business.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thoroughly have enjoyed learning about you and your business, and I trust our viewers have too. But I think that as we learn your story, we learn your business a little bit, and And of course, now I can go and have a deeper appreciation for what you do. But longevity is very important. That stability is very important. And you've been able to survive. So, you know, your own stability is part of that, right? Your own, and how about your own psychological stability?
Yeah, you need to be stable mentally, you know, to confront all the challenges, the daily challenge that you must face every day.
Well, it's certainly been fascinating to hear your story, and I really appreciate your sharing your story. And I thank you, viewers, for watching the show, and hope it's been a fruitful experience for you. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode of Hispanic Biz Success Stories. Thank you for watching, and good day.